One of my favorite things about Destiny 2 is the ability to customize my loadouts and the impact that has on how I play the game. Destiny 1 gave us the ability to customize our subclass choices, but when Destiny 2 released, it was very limited in the amount of customization available to players. I'm happy to see that Bungie has begun to introduce more options for creating unique character builds in the form of armor stats and mods. In my last beginner's guide video, I went over the various campaigns available to help you get oriented with the world of Destiny 2. Over the course of playing through those campaigns, you probably picked up a lot of armor. You've likely already noticed the stats on the armor pieces and maybe even started collecting high stat rolled armor. In this video, I want to give you more details on the various stats, as well as going over mods and giving you an example of how focusing on stats can add a lot of variety to your gameplay. There are 6 ability stats within Destiny 2: Mobility, Resilience, Recovery, Discipline, Intellect, and Strength. Each of these stats impacts one of your abilities in the form of reducing the cooldown between ability usage. Mobility, Resilience, and Recovery all have secondary effects depending on your class. Let's quickly review what each stat does. Strength affects the cooldown on your melee abilities. Higher strength means more punching in Titan terms. Intellect increases the recharge rate of your super bar. Higher intellect equates to more supers, making it one of the most valuable stats in the game. Discipline reduces the cooldown on your grenade. High discipline translates to more grenades being thrown around. Throwing more grenades has been shown to make Shaxx happy.
You should be throwing grenades as I say this!
The recovery stat affects how quickly your health regenerates after taking damage. As you can imagine, this is extremely valuable in both PvP and PvE play. Recovery also has a secondary function for warlocks. Higher recovery means that your Rift class ability recharges faster. Warlocks lucked out on this one because recovery is valuable on its own, but they also get the benefit of reducing the cooldown of their class ability. Resilience increases your damage resistance. While this may seem like the ideal stat to max, the truth is that the damage resistance isn't very significant. A common guideline is to boost your resilience to around 6 or 7 in PvP, as that can help you survive a shot that would have killed you otherwise. Beyond that, there isn't a noticeable impact to higher resilience. Titans got the short end of the stick on stats tied to class abilities because resilience affects the cooldown of your Titan Barricade class ability. Fortunately, I don't find myself deploying too many barricades, so there still isn't much of a reason to increase the stat past 7. Mobility affects your strafe speed and jump height. This is an excellent stat to max for PvP players. High mobility means you can pop in and out of cover quicker for shoot and run tactics. In addition to your speed, mobility affects the cooldown for the Hunter Dodge class ability. The higher your mobility, the more frequently you can dodge. Dodging is my favorite class ability, and I always try to max my mobility when playing a hunter. If you want to boost those stats, high stat armor is the first place to start. As you are playing the game, keep an eye out for armor that is 60 above without mods or masterworking. Armor in the 40s is the bottom of the barrel, whereas armor in the high 60s is the top of the class. Although the overall total is a good indicator, you also need to consider if the stats are distributed in a way that you want. For example, if you prefer high mobility, you might not care about armor that has a 2 in mobility and a 30 in resilience. Another good thing to keep in mind is that masterworking a piece of armor adds a +2 to each of the stats. I have the perfect example to show you the difference this can make. My hunter build has a 99 mobility and a 48 resilience. I would have to socket another mobility mod if I want to max out my stats. That would result in me wasting 9 points as I end up with a total of 109. Since there is no benefit to having stats in between increments of 10 or by exceeding 100, you'll want to find ways to get your stats as close to 10 increments as possible to achieve the most benefit. By masterworking my cloak, I bumped up both my mobility and resilience to the next tier without wasting any mod slots. If you're just starting out or are a returning player without any high stat armor, the Season Pass will award you with high stat armor starting at rank 37. It may not be the rolls you want, but it is really good starting gear if you don't have any alternatives. The other method for boosting your stats on armor is to slot mods into them. There are the obvious mods that will add a plus 10 to one of the stats, but there are a few others from recent seasons that can give a huge boost to a stat. Here's my Hunter Cape that I've added a Powerful Friends mod into. What's great about this mod is that by adding another Arc mod on the same cape, I can get a boost of plus 20 to my mobility. If you missed out on this excellent mod, it has since been added to Banshee's random mods available for sale each day. Keep an eye out for it and others. At this point, let's talk about an example hunter build. This is a basic build, nothing god tier, but it should give you an idea of the variety of the stats, mods, armor, and abilities introduced to the game. This build is designed to stay invisible as much as possible, while at the same time causing major damage with my melee attacks and charging my super for the boss. Let's start by checking out my cloak. I have the Powerful Friends mod equipped for a plus 20 to my mobility. I paired that with a hands-on mod to gain bonus super energy on melee kills. Finally, I slotted a mobility mod for a whopping plus 32 mobility with this one armor piece. For my boots, I have an intellect mod for speeding up my super recharge rate. I've also added a traction mod. This particular mod doesn't add much to a keyboard and mouse player, but it does add a plus 5 to your mobility, and that gave me the bump I needed to max out. For the rest of my gear, I just added intellect mods. My helmet is the exotic Assassin's Cowl. This exotic gives me health as well as making me invisible with each melee kill. I'm pairing this loadout with the Way of the Warrior Arcstrider subclass. The combination blow perk will trigger my health regeneration and increase my melee damage. The combat flow perk will recharge my dodge ability whenever I get a melee kill. Finally, the deadly reach perk will increase my melee range. Let's run a Lost Sector to see it in action. Each attack consists of punching an enemy, going invisible, then dodging to recharge my melee. As long as I dodge near enemies, I can repeat this cycle indefinitely. Here you can see that I dodged without enemies nearby, which resulted in my melee and dodge charges being used. This is where the max mobility stat comes into play. It will take 9 seconds to recharge my dodge. Fortunately, I can remain invisible for most of that duration. Once recharged, I repeat the process of dodging and meleeing. You can see the indicator in the lower left hand corner that I have the ×3 combination blow perk active. This means my melee attack will do maximum damage, and I can even one punch kill these yellow bar enemies. The hands-on mod gives me a big bump in my super bar each time I finish a yellow bar enemy with my melee. Once my super is charged, I finish the boss and clean up the remaining enemies. I cleared the entire Lost Sector without firing a shot. This may seem like a gimmick build, but you'll find that this loadout can be used to safely clear out a room of enemies while staying relatively safe. It's also a ton of fun to use. And with that, this video is complete. If you found this video helpful, a like is highly appreciated, and I would love your feedback in the comments on what you think is the most confusing thing about Destiny 2. Take care, and I hope to see you around the tower soon.